The moment her voice broke, soft, trembling, carrying the weight of something she'd been holding back for far too long, everything around us seemed to freeze. "I don't feel the same anymore," she whispered, her gaze drifting away as if the truth itself was too heavy to say while looking at me. Yet her fingers, resting dangerously close to mine on the edge of the couch, didn't move. That tiny space between us pulsed like a heartbeat neither of us wanted to acknowledge. The room was warm, lit only by a low amber lamp that cast slow-moving shadows across her face. I could see every conflicted emotion in her eyes, every thought she was trying to push down, and the ones she was trying not to admit. She wasn't cold. She wasn't distant. She was scared, of herself, of me, of whatever this thing between us had slowly, undeniably become. I inhaled, steady but aching, because I knew her better than she realized. The way her voice cracked wasn't the sound of someone falling out of love, it was the sound of someone trying not to fall deeper. Someone fighting a feeling she wasn't supposed to have. Someone trying to convince herself that stepping away was the safer choice. A fragile silence stretched between us, thick, charged, almost electric. She finally looked up, and in that fleeting second, her eyes betrayed her words. There it was, the heat, the longing, the memory of every moment that lingered too long, every almost confession, every time our hearts had brushed against a line we both pretended not to see. I leaned in slightly, not enough to touch, but close enough that she could feel the truth radiating off me. Her breath hitched. She tried to look away again, but this time, she couldn't. When I finally spoke, my voice was calm, low, and devastatingly honest, so honest it stole the air right out of her lungs. And it was in that heartbeat, right before my words sank in, that everything changed. Because what I said didn't just contradict her whisper. It shattered the world she thought she was safe in. She blinked slowly, her lashes trembling. "You can't just say something like that," she whispered, though there was no real anger in her voice, only confusion, longing, and the slightest tremor of hope. "You don't know what it does to me." I tilted my head, studying her. "I think I do," I murmured. Her breath caught again, sharp this time. She looked down at her hands as if they were betraying her, because they inched a little closer to mine, almost instinctively, as though her body had made a decision long before her mind was willing to admit it. The silence deepened, warm and pulsing. We weren't touching. Not yet. But the space between our fingers felt alive. She swallowed, trying to steady herself. "It shouldn't feel like this," she said quietly. "I shouldn't react to you like this." My voice softened. "Then why do you?" She gave a tiny, broken laugh, a sound laced with both surrender and resistance. "Don't make me say it." "Why?" I leaned in a little, not enough to cross the line, just close enough that she could feel the heat from my skin. "Because if you say it, it becomes real?" Her eyes lifted to mine, and for the first time tonight, she didn't look away. Something raw flickered there, something she'd been burying for far too long. The kind of truth that changes everything. Her knee brushed mine. A small movement. Accidental, yet not really. She didn't pull back. "You make it hard to stay away," she whispered, the confession slipping out in a breath she didn't mean to release. My pulse kicked hard. "Then don't." The words hung between us like a slow-burning fuse. Her chest rose, shaky. "You don't understand. If I let myself want this, want you, I don't know if I'll be able to stop." I paused, the weight of her honesty hitting me deeper than anything else tonight. My voice dropped, low and steady. "Maybe we're both tired of pretending we want to stop." A trembling exhale escaped her lips. She didn't move closer. I didn't either. But the air tightened around us, warm, electric, almost unbearable, pulling us to the very edge of something neither of us could name, and neither of us dared to touch. "Not yet." She looked away first, but only because the truth in her eyes was becoming too hard for her to hold. Her breath moved unevenly, like each inhale fought the very thing she secretly wanted. I watched the rise and fall of her shoulders, the way her fingers curled slightly against her knee as if grounding herself. "I shouldn't be here," she murmured. But you are, I said softly. She closed her eyes for a moment, as though my voice made something inside her stumble. When she opened them again, they were glimmering with a mixture of fear, longing, and something unspoken that tightened the space between us. There are things you don't know, she whispered. Things I haven't told you. I felt a tension crawl through me, not the kind born of hesitation, but of curiosity sharpened by the warmth sitting between us. Then tell me. Her head shook, slow and pained. If I do, it'll change everything. Hasn't it already? A subtle tremor shook her hand. She tried to hide it by brushing a loose strand of hair away from her face, but I noticed. And without thinking, without even deciding, I reached out, letting my fingers lightly catch her wrist. Just a touch. Barely anything. But it was enough. Her breath faltered. Her eyes flicked down to where our skin met, and for one dangerous second she didn't pull away. Then she did. Not abruptly. Not coldly. More like the touch scared her with how right it felt. I can't, she breathed, withdrawing her hand into her lap, holding it as though it had betrayed her. You don't want to, I said. Her lips parted, an admission trembling behind them, but she turned her face toward the window instead. The streetlights outside painted soft, gold reflections against her skin. You don't understand the timing, she said. Everything in my life is complicated right now. And you make it worse. I leaned back slightly, just enough to give her breathing room, even though everything in me wanted to close the distance. Or better. A small sound slipped from her, half laugh, half sigh. That's the problem. She finally looked at me again, and the weight of that gaze pressed into my chest. She was fighting something huge, something she'd been carrying long before tonight. Something that made her want me, and fear wanting me. I saw her lean in. Not much, just a shift in instinct. Her face hovered inches from mine, her eyes flicking between my mouth and my eyes as if caught in a gravity she didn't trust. For a moment, everything held perfectly still. She could have closed that distance. I could have too. But she inhaled sharply and pulled back, her voice barely a breath. If I cross that line, I don't think I'll come back. The truth of it wrapped around us like heat, quiet, dangerous, and aching. We were already too close. The moment she stopped, just a breath away from me, the world seemed to tilt, waiting for whichever way she would fall. Then a soft patter sounded from the window. Rain, gentle, steady, as if the night itself was urging her to let go. She exhaled, slow and shaky, and something in her posture finally softened. Not in surrender, but in truth. I can't keep fighting this, she whispered, barely audible over the rain. You don't have to, I murmured. Her eyes fluttered closed, and when she opened them again, the fear was still there, but something warmer had risen to meet it. Longing. Relief. Hunger wrapped in softness. She moved first. It wasn't a bold motion. Just a quiet lean forward, the kind that happens when a heart decides before the body does. Her forehead brushed mine, feather-light, trembling, and I felt her breath spill against my lips, warm and uneven. It wasn't a kiss. Not yet. But it was everything that had been building between us, finally allowed to breathe. Her hand lifted, hesitant at first, then gently cupped the side of my jaw. Her fingers were warm, warmer than I expected, and the touch made something deep inside me unravel. I covered her hand with mine, lacing our fingers slowly, deliberately, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. Her breath melted into mine, the air between us thick with every unspoken word. I've wanted this for so long, she confessed, her voice barely a breath. Longer than I should have. My forehead pressed lightly to hers. Then let yourself have it. The rain deepened outside, soft and rhythmic, like a pulse echoing the beat between us. Her other hand slid up to my shoulder, not urgent, not rushed, just a gentle, claiming touch that made my heart stutter. And then, almost imperceptibly, she closed the last inch between us. Her lips brushed mine like a sigh, soft, cautious, trembling with all the emotions she tried to silence. It wasn't a hungry kiss. It was slow, careful, the kind that says, "I'm here," before it ever says, "I want you." But the heat beneath it simmered, uncoiling through both of us as though we'd been waiting lifetimes instead of months. Her fingers slipped into my hair, and her breath mingled with mine, warm, sweet, desperate in the most beautiful way. When she kissed me again, it deepened, just barely. Enough to make my pulse roar. Enough to make her grip tighten at my shoulder, as though she needed me to keep her steady. Our bodies leaned together, slow, natural, guided by something older than thought. The warmth of her pressed lightly against me, and the world felt impossibly small, impossibly intimate. Her heartbeat tapped against my chest, syncing with mine in a rhythm that felt like confession. When she finally pulled back, her lips hovered close, still brushing, still breathing the same air. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she whispered. "Neither did I," I answered softly, brushing my thumb along her cheek. "But it feels right." Her eyes shone with something fierce and tender all at once. She let her head rest against my shoulder, her fingers tracing slow lines down my arm, barely there, yet enough to send warmth flooding through me. As the rain whispered against the windows and her body curled gently into mine, everything else fell away. Words became useless. The quiet between us grew thick, warm, charged with a tenderness that felt as intimate as any touch. And in that stillness, her breath against my neck, my hand resting over the curve of her back, we let go. Not in a rush. Not in heat alone. But in the soft, aching way two people do when they finally stop pretending they don't belong in each other's arms. Morning crept in quietly, slipping through the thin curtains in soft streaks of pale gold. The rain had stopped some time before dawn, leaving behind a stillness that felt heavier than the night itself. She stirred first, her breath shifting against the side of my shoulder, slow and uncertain, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to move. I didn't open my eyes right away. I could feel the weight of her thoughts before she ever spoke. Her body wasn't pressed against mine like last night. There was a sliver of space now, small but meaningful, as if she'd pulled back just enough to breathe without drowning in what we'd done. "Hey," I said quietly, voice still thick with sleep. She froze. Not dramatically, just a tiny stillness, the kind that said everything. When she finally looked at me, her eyes were softer than I expected, and more conflicted than I could have prepared for. "We shouldn't have," she whispered. The words stung, even though I'd been bracing for them. But she didn't move away. Didn't stand. Didn't run. She stayed. "That's not what you felt," I said, keeping my tone gentle, not accusing. "Last night mattered. You know it did." Her gaze drifted downward, landing on her own hands. She looked like she wanted to hide them. "That's the problem," she murmured. "It mattered too much." A knot tightened low in my chest. "Do you regret it?" She didn't answer immediately, and that silence hurt more than anything she could have said. She reached up, brushing a piece of hair behind her ear with trembling fingers. "I don't know," she confessed, barely breathing the words. "I don't regret you. I just don't know what it means." Her voice cracked on the last word. I sat up a little, close enough to feel her warmth but not close enough to scare her. "We don't have to define it right now. I'm scared to," she whispered. We stared at each other, two people who had crossed a line with their hearts long before their bodies ever touched. Then came the knock. 3 slow taps at the front door. Her head snapped toward the sound, panic flashing across her face. No, he wasn't supposed to be back until tonight. My stomach dropped. "Who?" She closed her eyes, already breaking. "My brother." A rush of tension sliced through the air. Not jealousy. Not guilt. Fear. She grabbed my wrist, her hold surprisingly tight. "Please, don't say anything." "Not yet. He can't know I was here." Her voice trembled. "He thinks I left you behind months ago. He thinks..." I stopped. Let the truth settle. This wasn't just about desire. This was about history. And the person standing on the other side of that door was the reason she'd been fighting her heart for so long. She looked at me with wide, desperate eyes. Please! The knock came again, louder this time. Everything between us shifted. The connection was deeper now. Messier. Real. And far from over. The knock at the door echoed through the room like a warning neither of us was ready to face. Her grip on my wrist tightened once, then slowly loosened, as if she already knew what choosing meant, what staying meant. She stood, breath uneven, fear flickering across her face like a shadow she'd carried far too long. I rose with her, taking only one small step closer. I didn't touch her, not yet, but she felt it. I could see the way her shoulders softened just from my nearness. Go, she whispered. Before he comes in. I didn't. Not immediately. Instead, I lifted my hand, brushing a stray piece of hair behind her ear, gentle, slow, a touch that asked nothing from her except truth. Her eyes closed, a tremor running through her. Why does it feel like leaving you now hurts more than staying ever could? Because it's real, I said. The knock came again, more urgent this time. She swallowed hard, stepping back, creating a small gap between us. A necessary one. A painful one. I can't let him see you. Not like this. Not after everything. I nodded. Not because I wanted to, but because I understood. Sometimes love wasn't about holding on. It was about not making someone choose before they were ready. As I walked toward the back door, she followed me silently. The morning light painted her in soft gold, making her look heartbreakingly human, heartbreakingly mine in another life. Just before I stepped outside, she stopped me with a trembling hand on my arm. I turned. Her eyes were shining. Last night. She took a breath, steadying herself. It wasn't a mistake. It was the first thing in months that felt honest. I cupped her cheek gently, letting my thumb trace the warmth beneath her skin. Her breath shivered as she leaned into the touch, only for a second, but enough to write itself into memory. I don't know what happens next, she confessed. I just know I'll think about this, about you, every time I hear the rain. I pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. Slow. Lasting. A promise without a future. Then that's enough, I whispered. And as I walked away, her eyes followed me, full of longing, hope, and the quiet ache of something unfinished. A goodbye that didn't feel like an ending. Just a pause, for a love that wasn't ready to die.